I grew up in an environment where it was safe to be creative. I had the freedom to be creative, and that's not a privilege everyone has. So I feel very, very lucky, and I feel like part of my life mission is to give others a safe space like that so they can be creative.
I am working hard to not be an overthinker.
Yeah, that's one of my best qualities, actually, is overthinking.
Yeah, I just love it. It just provides us a sense of extra security, I guess. Like
it does. Like in some ways, it's helpful.
Yeah.
In some ways, not overthinking, planning ahead, thinking through scenarios. It can be a good thing. It can also be a bad thing.
Sure. If you think about everything, though, multiple times, as much as possible, then it's like, okay, I've done everything I can to make this work.
Yeah.
But I guess we're starting.
This is the official podcast.
This is the podcast.
Starting 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. Welcome to Patchworked Pod. I'm your host, Elizabeth Palmer. This is my friend, Katy.
Hello. I believe in community and creativity. And I think my life story has brought me to my job now, which is, a few jobs, but my favorite being that I run an artisan collective here in Dallas. It's all women. It's all makers from Texas. And I do it to give these women a chance to sell their wares and make money being creative, but also to form friendships and support each other and collaborate and grow within, the group and within the greater community. So I believe in giving people the freedom to be creative, and I believe in amplifying their voices so the community can hear it.
So you also did something crazy recently. You owned this one store in Bishop Arts for a long time. Bishop Arts is in Dallas, if anybody
the best neighborhood in Dallas, by the way.
It's in Oak Cliff, Dallas, which is the greatest. But you have had this store in Oak Cliff, in Bishop Arts for a long time. You made it through a pandemic. Like retail made it through a pandemic, which was amazing. But now you're in a different location.
That's right.
And you are like literally traveling back and forth between cities to manage it all.
Yes, which is a lot.
It's a lot.
But I signed up for it.
You knew what you were getting into?
I knew what I was getting into. But it's incredibly exciting. So yeah, Mosaic Makers Collective, my shop, it's been around for over 6 years now. And got its start in the Bishop Arts District. And so we've been there like 6.5 years. We did go to the Galleria Dallas for a little while to do like a holiday pop-up there, which was a great learning experience. We still enjoyed it. It just wasn't like a long-term, we're going to do this forever kind of goal. And now we're in Waco. So we just opened across the street from the silos where Chip and Joe's fans go day in and day out to see the magic they do and make their pilgrimage to the silos and all the things. And so we are there to also supply goods for sale, all female made, all Texas artisans, and kind of complement what they have.
Yeah, I feel like your aesthetic is very good for that kind of situation. Like, not that, I guess your artists are all very different, but the overall aesthetic of the store is very, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's an aesthetic in that it's all consistently good. It's all quality. Consistent. Yes, it's all consistently high quality. Like, I haven't seen a dud in there yet. So you've done a really good job curating.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that's something we put a lot of priority on too, because we, now that we're established, it's years old, we get applications day in and day out, and we have a full shop, another full shop, and waiting lists, right? And then we're still getting applications daily. So for me, it was really about curating something that felt creative and expressive of individual styles and visions and opinions and all the things, but still a collection. Like, it still felt complete. Whether that was in like color schemes or styles or even like the way we just display the product throughout the store. I wanted it to feel not like a booth market where you go in and everyone has their own booth and it's very chaotic. I wanted it to feel like a boutique.
Yeah.
So that when you want to look at the jewelry, you can go to one spot and you see all the jewelry options that are available. And then you can really easily just be like, okay, I want this one, you know? And you're not spending 2 hours wandering booths to find all of the jewelry options.
Yeah.
We wanted it to feel clean and minimalistic and not as chaotic as it sometimes can when you have an artisan setting like that. And so it's been an intentional move, and it was a lot of me up front, and now I have a team of managers who are approving things for me, and they're doing a great job.
What does artisan mean to you?
So I use the term artisan sometimes and maker other times. I use maker more of the time. To me, it's someone who creates a product, does something creative, produces it, and then in my case, it's available for sale and others will buy it. So it could be someone who weaves or sketches or does sculpture work or makes jewelry, like any number of things. And it's not even limited to those things. Like, I really believe creativity is meant to be endless and expand beyond what we can believe it can be. And so, yeah, just using your brain for like creative art and making something of it.
What have you learned about creativity since you started this process?
So my lessons in creativity actually started like the day I was born. So let me go back to day one. No, I'm just kidding. No. But truly, I come from a creative family. And my dad's family motto from the day I was born to today is never stifle creativity. So for him, it was very much creating an environment where we could do what we wanted to do and give it a try and try anything, right? Like, I had little businesses when I was 4 and 5 and 6, like walking dogs. And then I had like a company that made candy soup, which was disgusting, but my parents were so supportive of me. And I would like sit over that stove and just like stir. It was not hot. They wouldn't let me turn the stove on. Just stir candy and water and then like sell it to them. It was a whole thing. I had a little cosmetics company where I made like sugar scrubs when I was like 7 or 8. So it's always been in my blood, and it's always been encouraged by both parents, but especially my father, just to try it, get out there, try it, see what happens. You know, don't stifle anything, just like let it be there.
It sounds like, I mean, not just creativity, but like an entrepreneurial
Totally.
spirit.
And my dad is that as well. So it really was the combination of the two, and then seeing him do it, that made it feel really possible for me. Yeah.
How do you think that creativity and entrepreneurship are tied together? Are they tied together?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think, I mean, in so many ways they're tied together. I would say, one, you have to be a creative thinker just to be an entrepreneur, because you can make plans and then those things don't happen according to plan ever. And you have to be thinking on your feet to make it work. And there's a level of like business acumen and numbers knowledge that comes with running a business too. But I think the creativity is the core of it. Because if you can also learn how to run numbers and also learn how to like balance things and look for profitability, but you lack the creative, there's no room for growth or creating something super unique. And it's the unique businesses that really survive.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess you can also be creative with
Totally.
There's different ways of being creative, and people kind of tend to box it. I hear so many people say, I am not a creative. And
I have staff members who say that actually. Some of my staff are artisans in the shop and some are not. And the ones who are not, every time they interview, they're like, I'm not creative. And I'm like, you're wrong, but we'll talk about that. And like half of them who've come in as non-makers are now makers. And the other half have expressed so much amazing creativity in other ways, whether it's like through the way we handle tasks at the shop or the way we interact with customers or the experience when you walk in the store. Like, creativity is not limited to art.
I've seen some really beautiful Excel spreadsheets. Like, whoever put this together.
And you need a brain that can think outside the box and push a boundary to create that, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
It's in all of us.
Whether
or not we realize it.
It's there.
I wish more people realized that they had an inherent creativity.
I think everybody does, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I was lucky enough to be raised in a home where it was celebrated. And like so like they would buy my candy soup every day, you know, like it was just, you know, so celebrated in the best way.
Wonder where it went.
Down the drain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in an environment where it was safe to be creative. I had the freedom to be creative, and that's not a privilege everyone has. So I feel very, very lucky, and I feel like part of my life mission is to give others a safe space like that so they can't be creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there specific ways that you help to foster that creativity, whether it's in your staff or in your makers, especially if they do feel like that lack or the anxiety about like just getting out there and doing it? How do you help them to? Because I think saying just do it versus like teaching or showing in other ways are different things.
So one thing we do in my boutique that isn't done often is, to the artisans, we kind of advertise ourselves as a testing space, right? A trial run. So if they want to make a product and just make 3 of it and put it in the store and see how it does, watch customer response, see if the packaging is up to speed, see if the price is the right price point, they can do that. And so for us, it's almost like giving them the space and the customers to experiment, and then letting that guide them. I think one of the scariest parts for especially creative, like product-based businesses, is the investment that goes into creating something without knowing if it's going to sell. And like, how can I be sure? And you can do research and you can do design work and you can do all of the things, and you might be mostly sure, but never completely. And so I wanted to create a space where people could come in and say, let's jump on this trend and try this new greeting card. We'll see how it moves. Or I've got an idea for a new necklace. Let's see how it moves. And they can use that research that they've gained through selling to then create something else. Yeah.
So you're giving them kind of a safety net.
A safety net and a freedom to explore.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I really believe in that, because how else are you going to learn? And our shop gets a lot of traffic in Dallas, and we hear so many comments, most amazing, some negative, just about, I could buy that at Target for less, you know, or whatever people want to say.
Sure.
But it's really, really constructive and helpful when it comes to like learning how to change or move a product line forward. And I would hate to have all of that knowledge with me and my staff and not share it with artisans, because I mean, it needs to go to them. Like they need to learn. This is part of it.
It's a collective understanding. It's like an open source knowledge situation.
Yes, and they're always welcome to come in and hang at the shop and help us and observe and like help us decorate. We do meetups.
Follow customers
around. Wow, don't be creepy, guys.
What is your response to something like, oh, I could get this cheaper in Target?
I think, well, a simple response is, this is handmade. It took this person this many hours with this much material to make it. I think the better way to respond, which I'm working on with my shop, is to really storytell from the beginning and connect the product to the maker. Because when people see a face or meet someone and realize that they're a local woman with a spouse or with a child or getting an education, and this purchase is funding that kid's dinner tonight, like there's such a reality to that then people will open up their wallets and be fine, because they're so encouraged by the fact that this is going to someone they have made a connection with, whether it's mental or emotional, you know, through storytelling. So for me, what we try to do is really from the minute they walk in, we have signs, we have videos, we have videos of the artisan process for a lot of the stuff we sell, and just trying to make sure they connect that product to what it went through to get on this table, you know. And not everyone will receive that in the same way, and so some people will make those comments, and that's inevitable. But the more storytelling you can do to really talk about the impact behind a purchase at the shop, it's so important. Yeah.
And I know, I mean, there's so many places like Target, and I mean, I love Target.
Oh, me too. Don't get me wrong. I still shop at Target.
No bashing Target. Target, if you would like to sponsor this podcast, please be in touch.
Come on, Target.
If you want to have some local artisan goods in some of your stores. I know somebody who can help make that happen. But I think there's so much value. So like it's easy to mass produce trendy products, home goods, and all of
Easy
that
and
stuff.
cheap.
It's cheap. Will I have to replace it in a year? Maybe. But that also means that everybody can get all the exact same things. And then at a certain point, it's like, oh, wow, all of our houses kind of look the same.
Exactly. It's
but-
a mix of like, you know, a lot of my artisans really focus on sustainability and being eco-friendly in what they make. It's a mix of finding something that's super unique to you. We saw a lot of like one-of-a-kind pieces that are just amazing, like a big wall weaving or a piece of jewelry that's made from like a crystal that was found somewhere, and no one else will have that product, right?
Yeah.
So that's such a selling point too.
Yeah. And I think people, especially like now that our whole lives are online and we're like trying to stand out and be different, there's so much value in finding something that can reflect back to us like, oh, I am unique because I have this thing that nobody else has.
Yep.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It's really fun too to see a customer connect to a product. And it sometimes is in the way you expect they would. Like this sketch on this card happens to remind them of something, and in other ways it's totally unrelated, but like they will walk in and see something and it's like magic happens and they have found the thing they've been looking for 10 years on some random trip to Texas in the middle of the summer, and who knows. But it's just really fun to see the unique connections people make and some of the stories that come from that too, and the people who just feel very seen or heard or special because this thing reflects a part of them. And you can't get that with Target. You can't get that with Walmart. You can't get that with, you know, mass production. Not the same.
We can be cute and curated just the same as everybody else if we want, but this helps us be cute and curated in our own way. Have you been able to maintain your own creative practice, and have you been able to continue to produce your own unique stuff while
Sort
also
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
So I started a stationery company before I started Mosaic, and I still do some of that in the sense that all of the product I've created is still for sale online and I still ship it out. Am I creating new product as frequently? No, because I'm really busy. But if I'm inspired, I will make time, carve time out. I'm just not doing, you know, in stationery, you typically do like 4 releases a year, and you're launching your new Christmas designs in July, and it's like a whole schedule.
Wow.
I'm not doing as much of that as I used to, but my cards are in my shop, my cards are online, and so it still exists. I think a lot of my current creativity is spent on the shop and projects associated with or on the artisans. So I still feel like I'm using it every day, and truly more than maybe I was with stationery, because I also have this social interaction and the challenge and beauty of working with other people all the time. But yeah, I mean, I use it in very different ways. And then especially over the last year, I would say it's had to become a lot of strategy and like big picture thinking and planning, and leaving a lot of the day-to-day to the staff, and giving them promotions, having them come up to management and kind of take over a lot of what I was doing. So that's creative in a very different part of my brain than a sketch is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Managing people takes a whole different set of skills and creativity. And I think you do a good job of empowering people to self-manage.
Thank you.
Yeah, like with your staff and then also with the makers. It's like, you know, do what you want to do and try things out. I think that's, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I read a book recently called 10x is greater than 2x. And one of the big principles in there is like create self-managing teams so that you can continue to level yourself up.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think it's like such a great, what you're doing is such a good example.
Thank you.
Of that.
It doesn't feel easy. It doesn't always feel like I'm doing it right.
You're making it look effortless.
It's not effortless. I promise you. And truly managing people is the most difficult part of my job. but people are also like my favorite part of the world.
Hmm.
So it's twofold, right? It's complex, but it's beautiful and it's challenging and it's different, and it really makes me work and grow in ways I didn't think I would in business. But it's been one of the best ways to grow, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have staff with you who are with you longer term, who you thought were going to just be short term, and that's like turned into a different kind of relationship?
Yeah, completely. For one thing, my first staff member ever is still with us. So
Mhm.
she's been there 6 years. She opened the original shop with me. I'd say if I probably have 20 on staff, and 7 were in the last few months to open Waco. But on my Dallas team, I probably only have 3 or 4 that are new this year.
Mhm.
Like, so many people are sticking around long term, which is incredibly humbling and amazing and encouraging. Like, that's exactly the environment I wanted to create, where these women feel like they can come have a part, make an impact, help these artisans, help each other, and want to be there. So yeah, retention is really, really good. And I think a lot of it has to do with the freedom I give them, right? To like self-manage, to get creative. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way they treat each other
Mhm.
and my work up front and their work as well, to really cultivate this community culture.
Mhm.
Like, if one of my staff members is having a bad day, the other leaves the shop and goes buys her coffee and brings it back. Like, it's just sweet, like little things, and they're always checking on each other. They're always covering for each other. They're always dreaming up new ideas together. Like, I have my team in Waco is currently painting cardboard into gingerbread houses for our holiday reset this weekend. And they found the Pinterest boards, they found all the instructions, they bought everything, they're getting it done. And I'm just like, great. If that's what you want to do, you do it. That's so cute. Like, I never would have thought of that. So
Yeah.
thank God for other brains and their
Yeah.
ability to help me
Yes.
succeed.
They're all taking ownership, and
Yes.
that ownership then translates into like growth for everyone.
It
It's a
does. And
win-win.
also joy in what they do.
Mm.
And one thing I've started doing recently is there's this book slash quiz slash, it's like an Enneagram kind of thing called
Ooh.
Strengths Finder.
Heard of this.
Yes.
I haven't done it.
But I'm working with a dear friend and another shop owner in Bishop Arts. He was a psychologist for many years and did seminars on this quiz, this book, at working with teams. And the idea is there are, I think, 34 or 36 strengths.
Okay.
And you take the test and you land your top 5 in order. So you have like your highest strength to your 5th highest strength. And the idea is that you get teams to do this, and then you look at it and assess where their strengths lie. And then are they doing jobs within those strengths?
Wow.
Like, or do we need to shift something they do to bring it elsewhere? And, it's fascinating to do these tests. I just did it with management in Dallas and management in Waco, and then we're going to bring it to the rest of the staff. But some of it doesn't surprise you at all. You know these people. You're friends with these people. You've worked with these people for a long time. But they're very surprised by it. Or the things that do surprise you, they're not surprised by. So it's, half of the conversation is around how you see this person versus the strengths, and the other half is around how they see themselves versus what the paper is saying about strengths.
Yeah.
And giving them the confidence to lean into a strength because the test tells us they have it, and them not doubting themselves and backing off and not getting the opportunity to live up to their like full potential in their work. So it's really fascinating.
What have you learned about people since you've been doing this work?
It's a good question. A lot.
Very broad question.
It's a very broad question. I think one of the big things that I just mentioned was like people's inability to see in themselves what you see in them. A lot of self-doubt or lack of confidence, or feeling like they're comparing themselves to others. So surely I'm not a strategic planner because I know so-and-so and they're very much a strategic planner. I think I'm also just learning about the incredible value behind different people on one team. Like different qualities that they bring, whether it's like planning or thinking or merchandising or photography or creative ideas, or like positivity is one of the strengths. And I have managers in both locations whose number one is positivity. And I've learned that that's a value of mine before I even realized that that's what they were, because I wanted to cultivate this positive staff environment. But turns out that's what I need to look for. right? So like if I'm going to open another shop someday and I want to find a great manager, I know that strength is an important one to be in their top 5.
Yeah.
So it's also kind of a guidance into what to look for in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're hiring people, are there other types of things that you're looking for to make sure that they're going to fit in with the culture? Like, are you looking for hard skills or soft skills in these situations? Because it sounds like they've got a really good community, and so like how it doesn't sound like that's an accident. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's not an accident. But the most frustrating thing about my answer to this question is that there's not really one because I use my gut. And it's not an easy one to advise people with. It's not like the most reliable option. Obviously, we collect resumes. We go through the basics. We have them answer some questions that everyone has to answer.
Yeah.
But truly, truly, it's about sitting down with them in a room and talking face to face, connecting eye to eye, and just seeing how they feel, what energy they bring to the room, how they socialize, what their values are, and thinking of everyone else on the team and thinking, can she fit this? Can he fit this? Can they do this? And you want some differences, but you also want a passion for the mission, first and foremost, because when they believe in what the shop's doing, they're going to work hard to make it happen. And then second, it's like this gut feeling. And I need to find a better way to explain it, but it's truly like, I've made some hires in the past that didn't work out, and I had a question in my gut, like the day of the interview, and I'd be like, well, I'm not sure, and then it didn't end up working out. So it's like, the more I do it, the more I'm learning to trust that gut.
Yeah.
You're good at that intuition, and I think it is a really valuable thing to lean into. It's just hard to explain, like, well, this is exactly what I feel and how, but it's a gut feeling.
Yeah. Maybe have a future career in like HR hiring stuff.
There we go.
If you ever like,
or I'll just become like a psychic or something. Start seeing everyone's future. I would love that. Actually.
That sounds pretty fun. You should start doing psychic readings out of the back of the shop.
Oh my God, that would be so funny.
Mosaic mediums.
You're full of good ideas. I'm telling you. I actually really like that. So we were gonna turn the corner of the shop into Mosaic, which is Mosaic but for guys. So you sell guy stuff.
That's funny.
And then guy made stuff. But we could also do Mosaic mediums.
You need more shop corners.
I need a lot of them.
I'm currently reading this book called Super Communicators.
Yeah.
It's really good. But one of the, it's basically about the science of conversations and why some people are good at conversations.
I would love that book.
I think you would probably enjoy it. But one of the things that they talk about is a NASA psychologist who started doing the reading. I think at the time that he was trying to figure some of this stuff out, there was new research coming out about laughter and like how people show empathy. And so he started to notice in his interviews, like he found everybody was good at answering questions about emotions, but whether or not they were actually good at emotions became apparent when he did things like he'd talk about his sister passing away and like accidentally dropping some papers and seeing how they reacted. And so noticing things like, are they laughing too hard or are they not laughing enough?
Does it feel sincere?
Right.
Yes.
If they're laughing the same amount, then it's probably a good thing. And they had so much more success in their NASA team pairings because before that, they would have people going on short missions. And so it wasn't as important. But when they were like, oh, we can have a space station where people can live together in this tiny box for a year, they were like, maybe we should make sure that they had the emotional intelligence to handle this.
And I think that kind of hits the nail on the head for what I look for without me being able to articulate it. It's just, like their social skills, their social cues, their empathy and kindness. And when I do an in-person interview, I never set questions and I never bring the same question to the same person. That's often done on like the resume side and the questionnaire side when they first apply. And I do that intentionally because I don't want to be so focused on a routine that I miss these social cues or these empathetic moments from them. And I really want to see like how they react to any conversation, not some planned
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You use your more like traditional artistic abilities and creative abilities in like personal projects. Like your cute little Christmas show website, like you're still
Which
doing stuff and
my
illustrating
favorite
it.
project every year, by the way.
Like what I want to know why you decided to do that. Like how do you choose what you're going to pursue creatively outside of your very demanding job?
Yeah. Well, and I see such value in doing something creative outside of your creative business, like completely unrelated. And of course, we bring friends in from the shop to create this show and everything that we do, but just completely different. One of the reasons, well, basic answer is I'm a perfectionist and I have to one up myself every year. So it started as a photo card, then became CDs, then became a playlist, and now it's a show, right? Because that's just who I am, sadly. But in other reasoning,
I can relate.
Yeah, exactly. My husband and I met in high school, and we were doing creative arts together from the time we were 14. So he was in theater, I was in orchestra, fellow violin player, and we just were always working on projects. We ended up working at a wedding chapel together through college where he was the sound tech and I was the coordinator, and it was all creative projects. And so we wanted to bring something back into our lives that allowed for creativity for us as a pair and with friends and family that wasn't work. We're like, we need a way to like express ourselves and have fun and just do something that's just for fun, no other reason. So we did the traditional Christmas photo card for 4 or 5 years when we were first dating and married. And then, well, I guess I should go back to our first Christmas card actually, which is quite funny and irrelevant, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So we were in high school. We were, I think, 15 or 16, already dating at the time. And my mom's twin sister had a baby boy. And we said, he looks just like me. Wouldn't it be funny if we made a family photo and gave it to all of our teachers just to freak them out? And so we did. So that was the first family Christmas card we did. And they all freaked out.
That's funny.
Brilliantly planned. They're like, wait, when was she pregnant? We're just like, oh man, okay, this was fun. And then the next year, everyone requested a new photo with the baby. So
oh my gosh.
He was in 3 or 4 years of photos. Then he's 22 now, so not in them anymore. Then we moved on to photo cards of just us, which I would kind of design on the computer. So there was still some creativity in that. And then we moved on to CDs because we liked the idea of a playlist. And at the time, aging myself here, but cars had CD players. Yes. Like some had multiple CD players. And a lot of them still do. So I would design a CD cover and the outside would be like a design. And then you open it up and inside is our holiday letter. So like what we did throughout the year. And then on the back would be the list of songs. And it was always curated by us. It was always holiday songs, but there was usually some sort of theme. Like one year we did duets and one year we did acoustic. And so there was always something there. People very much started looking forward to this, asking for more. So we probably did 8 or 10 of those. And then I started my podcast, She Makes, in 2021. And we had all this equipment sitting around. And my husband plays guitar and, we're super creative musically. So he's like, what if we just record something? Like all of this equipment is sitting here and we spent money on it. We might as well just like do a little radio show. So we found some inspiration from those, radio shows of the past, like where they'd be like the old timey storytelling radio shows or like variety shows. Like you even see today, Mariah Carey or Casey Musgraves doing like these variety shows. So we just had friends and family come in and do songs, and including you, which is one of my favorites on any of the shows, by the way. And Oliver was in it, which is the best. So it was just, we really did 2 years of those. And then this year's, we're recording tomorrow. And I'm very excited. And we went in a slightly different direction.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're we did the variety show. And we're like, that was fun. But let's tell a story. So we rewrote A Christmas Carol and we like cast it. And they're like, it's a musical Christmas Carol. But it has a cast and everything.
That's amazing.
They have lines. It's like a whole thing.
My friend.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It's going to be great. And my goddaughters have done this show with us since day one.
So
And
cute.
that's obviously one of my very favorite parts is getting time with them and getting to be creative with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're so silly. They're so fun, energetic, like hopeful. It's just, the energy is the best. It's the best. I need more of that.
Yes, and you can feed off of it
You can.
without
Oh, totally.
depleting them.
I mean, our first year show was all improvised,
Mhm.
and everything they said was pure gold, like hilarious gold. It
Yeah.
was just
It's very cute.
perfect. But yeah, just going back to the importance of creativity outside of work. Like when you have a creative job, sometimes you feel like that absorbs all of your creative energy.
Yes.
And it definitely can.
Yeah.
But doing something that's creative that's not attached to a value, like a number or your salary or pressure,
Mm-hmm.
is just so needed.
Mm-hmm.
It's so needed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I tell people even just giving advice for social media is like, if you want to make a plan, like I'm going to do this kind of content and this kind of, like that's fine. But if you aren't going to enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
then probably you're not going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like you got to find something that gives you delight.
Yeah.
And you can chase
You're
that.
only going to be motivated when you're happy to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of it as like following my bliss. Like
Mhm.
that's my strategy for social media, and for at this point any kind of creative pursuit. I'm like, if I am excited about it, I better go ahead and do it.
Well, when you're excited about it, it's also your best work.
Mm-hmm.
Like in terms of genuine quality, and maybe not like it's picture perfect, but like the message comes across, and
Yeah.
you get more likes or follows from a post like that than you ever will from a picture perfect kind of.
Yeah. And
post.
Whether it's like something that you want to be out in public or if it's just for yourself, it's so satisfying to look at something that you were excited about and then you completed.
Exactly.
And didn't allow yourself to think, what if it's not good enough? And then the pressure of that I feel like that can sometimes kill things if you just
absolutely
think about it too, overthinking.
Yep.
Overthink about it.
And I've spent years, kind of untraining myself on needing to be perfect.
How did you untrain yourself?
I started a business that was not perfect, and everything kept not being perfect, and I had to let go to save my mental health. So, I mean, truly, like when you throw everything you've got into a project and the shit hits the fan, which it has a couple times, and that's normal for every business, for one. But two, like the amount I had to not give a shit about very small things grew over time.
Yeah.
Like if this one product wasn't sitting on this corner of the shelf this way, like that no longer mattered because we had a water leak we were trying to fix, and that no longer mattered because there was a pandemic, and that, like it builds. And if I had continued to worry about every little thing, I would have melted. Like I would not have been able to continue in business. I would not have had a healthy mind in personal life. I wouldn't have found rest anytime.
Yeah. And
so I just realized the importance of like having to let that go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value in all of that. I definitely can relate and I think for me it was having a kid. I realized like, okay, there are the important things and then there are the really important things, and I like the really important things are going to get done no matter what. Like
exactly.
I'm going to feed my kid.
Exactly.
Are his clothes, like when he was first born, was his nursery set up? Were all of his clothes organized by size?
He will not remember a thing about that.
It doesn't matter.
Well, and I have a dear friend who I talk about work with a lot. She's pretty savvy business-wise too. But she used to manage a pie shop. And the owner she worked with, her phrase was, "It's just pie." And I say that now to everyone I know. And I explain it so they know what I'm referring to, but then I say it all the time. Like my management team that I meet with every other week now says it's just pie to other people because it's such a great phrase and it's such a great representation of I'm literally not an ER doctor performing surgery right now. Like it's just pie.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. The things that matter, your family, your friends, your well-being, your mental health, your home, like those things will come first.
Yeah.
Everything else is just pie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're taking care of the important things at your shop, like making sure your staff feel taken care of, making sure that they feel empowered, and your artists feel taken care of and empowered. And like those sound like the important things.
Yeah.
And because you've done those things, it's meant everything else kind of has just fallen into place as it needs to.
It's a balance of that, and then also figuring out, like I said with the Strengths Finder, what people like doing and are really good at doing and giving them that thing. For example, merchandising in our shop is something I can do, but I never really loved it. I always felt like I wasn't enough at it. And then I had a maker come in and ask to be on staff who used to merchandise for Anthropology for 20 years. And she's now our Dallas manager. And she's phenomenal. And you give her creative freedom and it looks 10 times better than anything I could have ever done.
Yeah.
So she can merchandise while I focus on the overall community or another larger problem we're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And her stuff is so much better than mine would be anyway. So win, win, win.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have a vision? Like you've now opened another location and obviously you want to like, I guess, get to equilibrium or like feel even keeled on that before you start planning the next thing. But do you have any things that you're like, it would be really cool to do this next, if you're comfortable talking about that?
Of course. And the answer is always. I always have something. Sometimes I wish I didn't have so many ideas.
Wish I wasn't so creative.
That does sound really snooty and terrible.
No,
that's not what I meant at all. But like I'm such an idea person to a fault. Like I won't finish a project because I've got an idea for another project and I'm working on that already.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's about slowing down and figuring out what projects are the most important, most valuable. What am I most excited about? But in terms of expanding on the shop and the concept of the shop, bless you. Growth is definitely on my mind always, and it sits there because I want to expand the mission and give more women more voice in the creative world. So it's not necessarily like I want to expand and then I can pay myself more or like be seen more. It's not like I don't even care about the money aspect. It's like how many women can we get in front of communities selling art, like making a living for their families. So I'm exploring a few different things right now. One of which is more shops of our own that we could open either within Texas or build out to other states, right? So like it would be a New York shop and they're all New York makers, New York women, California, all California women.
Yeah.
But kind of creating this network nationwide of local shops where each one is embracing that local aesthetic, those local people, but the guidelines and the business plan
kind of like a
same.
Franchise.
Kind of, but we would run it.
Right.
In a franchise, like you can sell it to someone else and they run it. The other thing we're looking at, which is like franchising, is licensing, where basically they pay you for the business plan and give you like a small percent of kickback from sales, and they take your business plan and run with it. So they hire, they build out, they do everything, and this is really a popular thing to do in like airports and hotels, where I think our concept would do really well because you'd literally be buying a souvenir from someone local who made that souvenir. So we're exploring the idea of creating a licensing program that could be for, bigger companies or airports or hotels, or someone like you who lives in Minnesota and wants to start a shop, and they can take that plan and use it to start their own version. So that's all in the works and always thinking about it. And then the other thing, because I always have too many, is I'm working on building out a software for consignment stores because I have spent the last 6 years trying to find the right software and it doesn't exist. So I actually have a really good friend in Salt Lake City who I met a couple years ago. She runs a shop just like mine, but Utah. And we're working together to build a software that can then be a tool for shops like ours to use.
That's very cool.
That's a long-term goal, but yeah.
Wow. Whoa. First of all,
is all of it going to happen? No. Well, I just have a lot of ideas. That's all.
That's okay. You're good, but you've got the ideas and you can help find the people to make it happen.
That's the thing.
If it needs to happen.
I couldn't do it all myself.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about Girl Riot Society?
Yes. So exciting.
Also, do you need anything?
No, this is very good coffee though.
Yeah, it's
Quite
Heirloom.
happy.
Heirloom, if you would like to be a sponsor of the podcast, I drink your coffee religiously.
And I'm drinking it right now, and it's
so
delicious.
good. It's so good.
So you asked me about Girl Riot
Riot Society,
which is one of my favorite projects that came out of this past year. So we have this shop where we see customers come in and gravitate toward things. We see what's trending. We refine our mission. We see what we believe in. And that's one part. The second part is profit margin can be challenging when you're a consignment shop and a lot of the money is going to the artisans, which obviously is our priority and makes sense.
Sure.
But we started talking about, as a management team, what if we made some products ourselves that we designed that, you know, we thought would do well based on the trends we were seeing in the customer behavior, that reflected the mission of our store and what we wanted to do within the wider community, and cost less. Right. So like we're paying 25% to sell this shirt instead of 50 to 60% to sell the shirt. So we decided we were going to start a line, and the management team in Dallas designed this entire thing, all the way from the name to every design we've had so far. And we call it the Girl Riot Society after going through a massive list and voting on names and all of that. But it is basically a representation of feminists being feminists and owning it and living true to who they are. Our little cowgirl is like our motto character, our what do you call that?
Mascot?
Yeah, like a mascot. I was like, I can see it, I can't say it.
Yeah.
This cowgirl is like our mascot, and she's got like a bra with stars on it, and little shorts and guns that are shooting flowers. And she says, "I dare you to ask me to smile," which is challenging all of those patriarchal people who think it's their job to tell women what to do, including when they smile, which is totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we made a line of shirts, bandanas, jewelry, all kinds of things, and invested a lot of time in really, like, one of my managers is a designer. She designed everything from the ground up, and another helped with the wholesale outreach and like packaging and shipping. And then we went to a couple of trade shows with it. So it's growing. We just did the State Fair of Texas with the line, which was really fun. I wasn't sure how that was going to go. We've never done the State Fair before, and it's kind of it's a pretty liberal line, and Texas can be conservative. So we weren't sure what responses would be like, but we actually made a line of State Fair shirts, Girl Riot Society shirts, but she was a state fair girl. So instead of holding the guns with the flowers, she had a corn dog and a turkey leg, and it said serving attitude and eating fried food. And it did so well.
I bet it did.
It did, and everyone loved it. And we had it in bandana form, t-shirts. We also had some like basic Texas design type t-shirts. We have some similar girls to our mascot who say things like "mind your biscuits" or "riot or die," and like all fun little phrases.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see where we go with all of that too, because it's really just giving our mission kind of like a voice, giving the idea of our shop some product that people can walk in and see, okay, this is how they identify.
Yeah.
You know,
this is, well, and we can stray away from this subject if you prefer. But as a strategic thinker, as somebody who's looking at growing this into other cities potentially, but even just being in Dallas and trying to promote women and like having a line like Girl Riot Society in a red state, in a country that just elected Trump again as president. How do you want to move forward in a way that continues to promote these things? Like, I guess where I'm trying to figure out how to like phrase this question, or if it's even a question, or if it's just like a thought that I have that you can reflect back to me.
Well, it's a great question.
I think we are so polarized now as a country, and I think the only way to like fix things is for us to be less polarized. But
Mhm.
how do we do that while still maintaining our values? And so, like, for somebody who's got to continue to exist in this retail space with values that are different from a lot of people who are coming through the doors, like, how do you do that in a thoughtful way that doesn't isolate people, but also doesn't compromise what your values are and what the values of your makers are?
Exactly. It's a great question. And it's something I've thought on for a long time and kind of go back and forth with. And as we have elections and re-elections and new presidents, everything changes, right? Every 4 years. So do I know what the next 4 years are going to be like for Girl Riot? Absolutely not. But I also know the importance of standing up for what we believe in. And I have found that since we created the Girl Riot line, since we had our Pride mural painted out front, things like that, we actually have more dedicated groups of followers and customers than we ever have. And so I think you do find the people who don't agree, and you're still respectful. Like, absolutely, they're entitled to their opinion. We're entitled to ours. That's how it works. They don't have to shop in our store. It's fine. But we're speaking to the people who don't often feel seen. And I think it's adding a lot of value. And so I never want to get to a point where I have to take down a mural or remove a shirt. I think there's a lot of beauty in being a little subtle. Like, these products are out, but we're not like there with a megaphone preaching on the corner. You know what I mean? And you can buy them or you can't, but it's still sending a message on what we stand for as a business, what we believe in, and who's welcome in our store, which is everybody, obviously, all people, all the time. Y'all means all. But it is a balance. And as politics shift, as things become more polarizing, it is hard. So I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I do know the value I found in like standing for something in business has been really amazing personally and professionally. I know it helps others. Like, I have countless stories of that mural being out front and the way it's made people feel seen, or they've come to talk to us because they're struggling, and others with Girl Riot, and these like 85-year-old besties who will come in the store and just cheer when they see those shirts and be like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I needed this when I was in college. And it's really overwhelmingly positive in those instances, and it makes it worthwhile.
Have you ever had staff or makers who are like not completely aligned with maybe like I don't know, it's hard to say, like, what if they're not into women's rights? But have you ever had people who like are like less excited about like the all means all side or anything like that?
I'm sure we do. I think in general, these women who are running businesses for themselves and making it work believe in women's rights and believe in freedom of speech and freedom to create, right? And we are also very, very open about welcoming everyone. So just because you vote red and not blue doesn't mean you can't come into our shop. You're also incredibly welcome all the time. And the same goes for our community. Like, we're not picking people based on how they vote. And everyone has the freedom to sell what they'd like and vote the way they'd like. And just because we have a mural or a t-shirt that says one thing doesn't mean they can't have a line in there that says something else. You know, so it's really about giving everyone a chance to express opinion, you know, whatever that is, and just giving us the freedom to say, I stand for this or I stand for that. Yeah.
Without it
being in your face.
Right.
Correct.
Or without it being something that's going to get you canceled or.
Correct. And there's a lot of fear in that. I mean, the Pride mural, for one, like, not long after we put it up, it was vandalized. And then that same week, a shop owner in Florida was killed because she had a Pride flag in her window and some guy went in and shot her. And so there is fear in that. It is scary, and like adjusting to change is kind of required, you know, as politics change. However, I would rather stand up for the people I love and risk something than not say anything.
Yeah.
That's just who I am. So
yeah.
Hell
yeah. Got those little flower guns going. Oh man, Tyler, what?
She wants to be on the podcast.
She wants to be on the podcast. She wants to go on a walk, is what she wants. And it's we're not going on a walk today.
No,
That's not happening. Is there anything that you want to make sure we talk about from like the shop, or anything else that you're working on that you're like, oh, it'd be cool to talk about this?
I can't think of anything immediately. And I'd be happy to talk about non-business things too. Like,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
feel like that's
I
part
know
of
we
it.
kind of went on. Well, I guess the whole idea of this podcast
Right.
is that
the
it's like,
patchwork of people.
right, it's
Yeah.
the patchwork. And I am trying to work on, I think one of the advantages to doing a podcast like this is it will help me to learn to break out of that, like, let's go down this one rabbit hole for a while.
Right.
Well, but not that there's anything wrong with going down a rabbit hole, but also what I've been finding is that the things that people tend to talk about the most are the things that are really interesting.
Right, and then it'll captivate
And
an
like
audience
your
too.
business is so interesting, and your
Yeah.
like everything that you're doing there is just fascinating. But and I have a question. Also, I forgot about my warm-up game for
We
the
didn't
second week in a row.
What? We're gonna have to re-record this whole
I know.
thing.
We can do it right now. So I'm gonna count down from 3, and we're gonna say the same. We're gonna say any word at the same
Okay.
time. We're gonna listen to what the other person is saying,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're gonna keep doing it until we get to the same word.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And I'm gonna think of a starting word for myself. You need a second.
I got one.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Coffee.
Yes, we did it!
What?
Woo!
That was funny.
I almost like lifted my cup to be like, maybe I'll remind her there's coffee in here.
Something that's not too obvious, but that would be.
I almost said violin, but I said coffee.
That's so funny. Wow.
Well, we just won that game.
Well, okay.
Way to go, us.
And we've also been chatting for a while now.
We have, and we've been
So
drinking
we've
coffee
on
for a while.
yeah. What is something that you have recently had to unlearn?
I would say giving a shit. Giving too much of a shit. For me, it's really about finding balance about what's just pie and what's important, like we talked about.
Right.
And this business has really helped me hone in on what to spend my energy on and what to not spend my energy on, because it's not worth it.
Yeah. Are there any things that you've had to unlearn that you feel like you already had to unlearn before, but then you had to unlearn again?
Yeah, that. Exactly. I think for many of us, perfectionism is in our blood, and we have to learn and unlearn those things over and over and over.
Yeah.
In different cycles, in different phases of life, in relationships, in having a house, in taking on a new hobby, in having a business. Like, just because you own it in one area doesn't mean you're still not a perfectionist in your marriage or in friendships or in the way you cook at dinner, you know?
Yeah. Is it possible to be creative and also be a perfectionist? I mean, I guess technically you are both of those things.
I am.
But is there space for one when you are being the other?
Some space, but not the space it deserves, I would say. So I think you can be a perfectionist and still express creativity and do creative things, but you stunt yourself. Because you're so focused on creating a perfect thing that you don't try something new often enough, and that you don't release what you've created often enough. Yeah, it definitely slows things down.
Yeah. What would you consider to be some of your other patches if we're thinking about life being a quilt? Obviously, the business is a large one, but surely you do some other things.
I do.
With your life.
A little bit. Not much, honestly. I spend a lot of time on the business right now. There are a lot of things in my life. I think one is mental health, like being a mental health advocate, caring for my own and for others, and my journey through that process. I think that's a big part of my quilt. I think my passion for music and creativity all around, unrelated to work, is a part of that. I played violin for so long, and that was such a part of my life that I think that was a big thing too. Um, Honestly, my social life, like building and caring for my relationships, it's a big part of who I am, whether that's friends or family. Yeah. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I'm sure there are way more patches, but I'm like,
you recently did some fun travel.
I did.
And you're now like a spa girly, I think, based on your 2 big trips down to Austin. And that's, I mean,
Oh my
I always
gosh,
think
that was
about that.
amazing. So we
Talk
do
about
like travel a lot too. That's a
mental
big
health.
one. Yes. And this place we found in Austin is the best combination of travel and mental health care that you can find. Highly recommend. So we took a trip, I think 2 Junes ago, for our dating anniversary, because we celebrate both because we're cool kids like that.
It's very cute.
We took a trip to Miraval, and this was Miraval, Austin. They also have locations, 2 others throughout the United States, but it is literally it's like a summer camp for kids, but for rich adults, which makes it sound terrible. I only say that because we go on points, but it's very hard to find people who like actually have real money that they spend to go to places like that, because a lot of our friends and family don't have that. So I teach my friends and family how to get a credit card, use the points, and then go on the trip, which is exactly how we do it. But you drive in to this facility, and it's like in the hill country, and it's like 50 something acres or more. It's huge, beautiful trees. You pull up and you hand them your phone, and they put it in a sleeping bag and on a little wooden bed, and they hand it back to you. So you have the freedom to pull it out if you want to, but the idea is you are not supposed to touch that until you leave. And 1, that's life changing, and 2, once you let it go, you don't want to turn it back on at all. Like, and I'm always on my phone. As a business owner who's like managing multiple sites and staff, I feel like I have to be.
Right.
So it was so freeing to just be like, I'm not tied to this thing, and it's not going to consume my day, right? For once, just for 3 days, this one time. So then you go onto the property, you have a room, and then there are all these facilities for like yoga, meditation, prayer, spiritual activities. There's a spa, there are infinity pools, there's a full-blown like a food hall where they do farm to table food. A lot of it they grow themselves. They have an equestrian center, they have beehives, and you can go like take care of the bees with them. They source their honey from those bees and put it in their smoothies to make them sweet. Like, it's all very, very thought out. And the best part for me is that your room automatically comes with like $250 credit a day that you can use at spa or on activities or on meditation classes or whatever you might want. And so it's not like you get yourself there and then you're like, well, I'm stuck. It's like, no, this is built in, and you kind of have to make yourself use the facility and really get the most out of it. And they don't let you give your credit to someone else. It has to be for you, which I also like, because I think my husband and I would have a tendency to be like, well, if you want to do that, go ahead, you can, but they won't let you do that. So we've done so much there, from spa to pool to, my husband did a lot of equestrian work. Our first year we were there, he did like a communications class, but with horses. So it's about body language, and it was fascinating. Lots of meditation. We did like sage ceremonies and other spiritual ceremonies. We saw a psychic. We had our tarot cards read, and we took a class on astrology. Like, there's just so much out there. But the best part is there's no phone.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much it consumes your brain and your day until you have no phone. And here I am with my phone face up, like sitting next to me, and like, what am I doing? It's truly incredible. And you find time to think about the things that matter, the things you want to think about. And they really challenge you. Like, there are a lot of classes that are also just about like emotional work and mental work. Like, we did one called Ring of Fire that was in this like Solidago house up on a mountain. And they bring the chandelier down. It's this massive chandelier. It's probably like 20 feet in diameter, all candles. And so you write things you want to let go of, and then you burn them. And then we take the ashes and we pour them in the river. And then you like wash your hands in the river. It's a whole process.
I love that.
But it is an incredible process. And the way they encourage you to just heal and move on and let go, awesome.
When you didn't have your phone on you constantly, what things did you find yourself wanting to think about?
My relationships with people,
Mm-hmm.
my friends, my family, and my spouse mostly, because I think he and I get so caught up in work too that we're just like barely seeing each other. Or like, even if we are, it's for a dinner in the middle of a crazy week and it's not like conversation about long term, right? Or what we're loving or what we want. And I just think those conversations are so important, and sometimes they're the first to be dropped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess you guys had a lot of time together to just
We did. It was
chat
great.
about that stuff.
Well, and honestly, a lot of the classes open up conversation, like this Ring of Fire class, or even seeing the psychic, which is absolutely fascinating. You've seen her twice now. She's amazing, and not wrong about things, which is scary. But it opens up conversation. And like, even if she says something that doesn't make sense, it makes you think of another thing that you can then talk about for hours. And we also bring these little, like, they sell these little conversation decks in the gift shop at the resort. And so we'll buy those and work our way through those when we don't have anything else on our mind. But it's great. It's great.
I love the sound of that.
It's really amazing. Highly, highly recommend
Marigold, if you would like to sponsor this podcast,
please do.
Please get in touch. I would love to talk about this. We can record a podcast episode from this.
Count me in.
That would be amazing.
I'm there.
What are some of the ways in your daily life or your week that you're taking care of your brain and mental health? How do you prioritize that?
So one of the biggest things I do now that I didn't do early on is I delegate responsibility to other people. I think when you have a business and you're so personally tied to it, you want to touch everything yourself. And I was doing that 12 hours a day, 7 days a week until I burned out. And so the best thing I can do is delegate. It frees up my time to then focus on big picture, then focus on other things, but also go to the doctor, go to the therapist, take time to read or meditate, whatever you might need. And I don't do it enough, even now. Like, I'm still too busy. But I'm opening up myself to that process and taking the time, and I'm trying to be intentional about it. And even that in and of itself has made a difference. I mean, I think for me too, just being with people I love is therapeutic. And so spending time in conversation, and like deep conversation and complex conversation, and not just like, how is the shop today, or this is the weather, like really quality conversation that fills my cup. And so trying to be intentional about doing that and getting a coffee with a friend or planning a dinner, like, yeah, that's where I want to spend my time. And then also naps, because the power of a nap is an amazing thing. And if I ever have a day where I have like time to like lay down for 45 minutes, I feel like a new person.
That's fun.
It's so rejuvenating.
I don't let myself nap enough.
Same.
But
because it's dangerous, because then you want to keep napping, or you want to nap
right.
But they are so relaxing, and they just reset. Like, if you're stressed about something to the point that you don't feel like you can work on it anymore, go lay down for 10 minutes. Yes. Just like move to a different room. You know, light a candle, do something to like change your setting, so that you can rethink.
I love coming and sitting at this corner, and we have so much green out the back. There's nothing in my hummingbird feeder currently, but when there is, I can watch the hummingbirds.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so great. And I forget that I have the option to like change my environment.
Yes.
Because I'm just
and that's
in it.
Something I learned a lot through therapy too, was not only having a spot in your home or your everyday life that feels like a safe spot, but also creating one in your head. Like, if you had a perfect safe space, what would it be? Are you by the ocean? Are you on a mountain? Are you looking at a sunset? And allowing yourself, when you can't get out of an unsafe space for whatever reason, at least you have the one in your head you can go to.
Yeah.
That will calm you and ground you. But having that one at home too, where it's like, don't bring your work computer to this corner if that's going to be your corner. Like, that's your safe space. Don't fill it with this. Don't fill it with that. Don't. It's just, you need to designate a spot that can kind of be your calm down and chill out.
I do bring my computer to this corner.
Well, it's also a great workspace. In
It's
fairness.
a great workspace. The background is good for Zoom calls.
Yes.
But it is nice. And I think I forget how much control I have over my own brain and my own situation, my own schedule. I think I let time become I let time be in control of me instead of vice versa.
Yeah.
And when you're like running a business and have so many responsibilities, you have to be the one in control over your time, because the alternative is to get too busy and be burnt out, which we've both experienced.
Yes.
And
for you being a mom on top of all of it, right? Like I can't speak to that, but I have so many friends and artisans and staff members who are moms.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine like trying to control my time and my schedule with a toddler in addition to a business. Like that's its own podcast episode with another mom friend, because there's so much struggle there to balance it all. You know?
It's not. I mean, it's fun in its own way, but it's not easy.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I've been time blocking more, and I started using a calendar. It's not exactly an AI calendar thing, but it lets me like schedule to-dos and reschedule, and it all syncs up with my calendar.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Like at the beginning of the week, I sit down, I'm like, here's where everything can go, and we'll change it if we need to. But then when I start my day, and instead of it feeling like a vast, overwhelming, open block of time, which I never have enough open blocks of time anyway, but if I see an open block of time, I'm like, do I even have anything to do right now? I know I have so many things, but how do I pick? How do I prioritize?
Yeah.
And then I kind of just spiral. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Mental health is important.
So important.
Understanding yourself is important. Like understanding your brain is important. And your brain fascinates me, because you seem like a person who you do a lot of things and you're able to like just continue to like execute. Does that feel like an accurate perception?
Sometimes. I do execute. I have a lot of ideas and I get a lot of things done, and I work fast.
Yeah.
Like I think when I work on teams, people get a little afraid of me because I'm such like an implementation, like let's get this done now, why wait person. What was the question?
I don't know. Like, how does your brain work? How do you do that?
So honestly, a lot of my brain is rooted in trying to please people.
Well.
In the perfectionist sense too, makes it challenging. And just trying to like feed other people's needs and seem successful. Like others' perception of me matters more than it should. So I think a lot of it is rooted in that. But I also am just such an idea person, and I get so excited and motivated.
Yeah.
But like I said, earlier in our conversation, sometimes that's short-lived, and I do drop things. Like for every 5 projects you see that I've done in the past 3 years, I have 20 others that I didn't start or I started and didn't finish. And it's also teaching myself to have forgiveness for me for those things that I don't finish as the perfectionist, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's really been a journey over the past few years of saying no to things, being okay with not finishing things. Like I had to have a real talk with myself, probably like 5 or 6 years ago when the business first started, about my to-do list not being completely checked off at the end of the day. Because to me, that's what a to-do list was. And having to let go enough to be okay with the fact that I didn't check off these 5 things and they're going to get done another day. It was a real lesson for me. Like I had to recalibrate my brain and say like, this is okay.
Yeah.
It's just pie, right? Yeah. And it's so important to be able to do that and teach yourself that. And it's always a relearning too. You're always reminding yourself, you're always trying different things. Yeah.
I think I've gone too far into the it's just pie mentality with my to-do list, because I have a lot of things that I'm like, oh my goodness, Tyler, We have a lot of stray cats just
Oh.
who live right around here, and they love to walk past the front door.
Of course.
And taunt her.
Yes. Are they
And poop in
taunting
our
you?
yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So great.
Love those cats.
I love a pet cat.
Not a stray cat.
Not a stray cat. They're so,
Yeah,
it's like
we
they're
have
so
a-
in your face. Like, I'm going to walk across your car and leave footprints.
Oh, I love them.
Let
I want
me-
to take all of them home, really, is what I want to do.
Oh.
And now we have a
Take me
stray
too.
who sleeps on our neighbor's porch who has a kitten.
Oh, no.
And the kitten just follows her around.
Oh,
It's so
oh,
cute. I
kittens
just
are
want to
cute.
cry when I see it.
Oh, no.
In a good way.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm so happy because it's just so fussy. You know?
Yeah, I get that. That's how I feel when I see videos of mudang, the pygmy hippopotamus.
We just got a great Christmas card in.
Is it a mudang?
Uh-huh. You'll have to come see it.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Right now, at this point in my life, baby animals are where it's at.
I especially love baby animals that are friends with baby animals different than themselves. You find like a dolphin and a cat and they play together. It exists. Or the internet's lying to me. I'm not sure which.
It's AI. Just kidding.
I love like unusual pairings, especially
Cute.
when they're both babies.
Yeah.
Or like a litter of puppies that takes in a cat or a
Yeah.
duck. Like,
Oh,
what?
yeah.
It's the best.
So silly. So cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my brain will be like, let's look at these videos instead of, I don't know, reconciling my books, those are the things that my brain's like, this is just pie. And then it's like, oh.
But it is.
I missed my quarterly tax return thing.
But it is just pie.
It is
Because
just pie.
What you did in that moment was choose mental health and rest over stress.
Sure.
I truly think.
Yeah.
And you obviously like want to be on a schedule and get things done when you can, but
Sure.
also like, what's the worst that happens?
Sure.
If you let things go, and like the tax return, it'll get filed.
Yeah.
There might be a penalty, like, but that's just pie too. You know what I mean? Like, you have your husband and you have your child and you have your music, and that's what matters. And I'm again teaching myself this every day too, because I struggle the same way. But so many things are pie.
So many things.
So many things that you would never think were pie are actually pie.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. I think for me, when it comes to the cute animals, I usually see them because I'm doom scrolling, and I don't necessarily think that's great for my mental health.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to replace it with is like a more
like an intentional rest.
Right,
something.
Intentional I think
Or
the term is productive rest, where you're not like, I guess productivity has this connotation of like checking off the to-do list, but productive rest, I guess, is more like doing things that are actively filling your cup.
Yep.
Or like taking a nap or journaling or reading.
Yep. And doom scrolling is definitely a common alternative and not a great one.
Right.
Social media makes it hard to really rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because your brain is playing comparison games and your brain is like, oh, I want to do this, or, you know, this girl looks so different and better in this way. And it's kind of just a scary realm to spend your free time in.
Yeah. The soapbox that I've been building in my head this week has been about social media and how it's made us more polarized. Like we were talking about earlier, like, and it makes me think of there's this idea of curation where on one side I'm like, oh, the algorithm knows me so well. Ooh, I ended up on the right side of TikTok. And then on the other hand, I've curated my life and my feed so much that everything just reflects back to me exactly what I want to believe
and it's
about
not
myself.
challenging you, and it's not making you aware of others who
Yes.
don't feel that way. And I very much felt that with this election, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's where it stemmed from for you too, but I have obviously, through the course of me scrolling and liking things and the algorithms that they're forever changing on social media, being fed a lot of stuff within my realm of voting blue. And I obviously, there are other voters out there, but when you're not seeing it all the time, it makes things more shocking when they happen in a different way than you expect. It's like there's a whole world of people whose opinions I haven't heard from in a while on
Yeah.
social media, and there's such value in hearing what they have to say.
Yes.
You don't have to come to an agreement,
Yeah.
but just like, yeah, you create this little curated space, and it's like you forget there are things outside of that,
Hmm.
and that can become dangerous. I agree.
Yeah. I think we can have like, I think having a curated space that you can retreat into, well, and this is what we talked about on the last episode, was just like having a boundary fence. And that's like, you can have this space that you can go back into, and that's your, I guess, your curated life, your curated thing. But you do that so that you have the strength to go out and have harder conversations with other people, because like I don't see any way of us becoming better as a country without like
With continuing
without
to
bridging
separate,
some of
yeah.
those gaps, because it's like it's
Right.
wow.
Well, and there's
Wow.
such good growth that comes with challenge of difference of opinions
Mhm.
or a new experience.
Mhm.
Like travel,
Yeah.
right? Like you go to a country that speaks another language and it's completely overwhelming, but the amount you grow and learn in that discomfort is
Mhm.
just huge.
Yeah.
And it's so good for you. But
Yeah.
yes, you always want a safe space you can come back to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And there's like the big ones like, hey, we should probably respect people's right to live at like as they are, or like get married to who they want to.
Mhm.
Those like the basic human rights is like really important.
Mhm.
And then there's also a lot of other things that are so they're nuanced, and there's so many things that we like agree on, but we never get to those things because
Yeah,
we're talking over each other about other things.
right.
But one of the things that came out of this Super Communicators book this week, I felt like the chapter, I was like, this is a little on the nose. The chapter that I happened to be working through this week is like talking to people about polarizing issues. And I love that you talk about the stories of makers being like what helps connect people to their products. Because one of the things that they talked about was an experiment between two groups of people who had very differing opinions um, on gun control. And so one of the rules for this facilitated conversation was um, each person can talk, but they're only allowed to share their personal experiences. And then in response, other people are allowed to ask open-ended questions, no tricky questions, no hidden questions. And because of that, everyone had a really beautiful connecting experience of like, whoa, there are actually a lot of things in the middle here that we agree on. It's like the execution of this that ends up getting really muddled, but there's so many shared values. And so I'm hoping that like from my own work with video, that's like a way that we can, like with video, with music, with any form of creative expression, that's a way that we can share our own experiences with the world very openly and invite people into that space of saying, here's my story, here's my thing. It's okay if you don't like it, but tell me what your thing is. Tell me what your story is.
Just being open to listening.
Yeah. And if we can at least like practice listening to people and practice having challenging conversations and feeling triggered and still continuing to breathe through that and like practicing emotional resilience and all of that. And these are skills, obviously not everybody has them, but I think they can be built.
Totally.
And then there's people who have been doing this work for a long time and they probably need a break. And so there's others of us who like had a baby during the pandemic time who completely just, I shut myself off from the world for a while there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like more equipped at this point, or more emotionally ready, I think, to have some of those kinds of conversations than I did.
Absolutely. And the truth is, those conversations are going to come into your life whether or not you plan for them or want them. And challenging yourself in small pieces over time prepares you more for those unexpected moments. You know what I mean? Like building that resilience, finding ways to breathe through stressful situations. It's a way to prepare yourself for a time you can't control what's coming. Yeah.
I like being in control, though.
Being in control is great. Do not get me wrong. Best. It is probably the best feeling in the world.
I would love to control. Oh, and that was something I read in the book today. Like, well, it's transitioned now into like conversations between spouses and like the difference between happy relationships and unhappy relationships is not about the number of arguments they have or even like their ability to solve their problems. It's about whether or not they are trying to control the other person when they're having fights with each other. So, you know, the language of like, you can't talk to me like that, or you can't do this or whatever, versus how can we control the situation together, or what can I control about myself, completely changes the dynamic in that relationship.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think people who try to take control, they're not in it to compromise, or they're in it to win their opinion. You know, win something. So
win at all costs.
Fight fair. You need to fight fair. Also, I don't trust couples who don't fight, who say they don't fight. I'm like, no one never fights, okay? Even the best relationships.
Oh my gosh.
You disagree.
You have to disagree about something.
Or you're not speaking your mind. I don't know. Yeah.
Or one of you's been brainwashed. Which is also
not ideal. Not ideal. Yeah.
Wow. Oh man. How do you feel like you have grown, like, well, you've been married for how long at this point?
Like almost 17 years.
Whew, girl.
And almost 16 years.
Happily married.
Almost 16 years.
Still, like, y'all are such good friends, it feels like. I don't know. Either you are really good at faking a good marriage, or you actually genuinely, like, when I watch you guys talk with each other and when you're doing your creative projects together, it's like just such a delight to watch, because it's sometimes hard to find couples who just genuinely enjoy hanging out with each other and creating together. And I love that. And I'd love to know more about, like, what are some of the big lessons that you've learned about marriage and relationships?
Yeah. So flexibility and the willingness to grow toward each other instead of away from one another is huge. But I think we had a big benefit in the fact that we met so young.
You sure did.
So before we were even dating, we were doing group projects and classes. We were doing musical theater productions together. So it's like we were always a team.
Yeah.
Whether it was in like class assignment or working a job, any number of things. And so that allowed us to like live in that kind of hopeful, playful high school mind and creative mind early.
Yes.
And
the coffee.
Got it. But it allowed us to live in that from an early stage in our relationship. And then, you know, as we get older, it's challenging to find time for that, but it's so important. And so finding time to really create together and just have fun. Just be silly.
Are you guys game people? Do you like games?
Yeah. Like board games?
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. We love them. I think the other thing we make an effort to do day in and day out is just be kind to each other. And not say negative things about the other person, either in front of them or behind their back. Like, there are a lot of couples who, and understandably so, someone will be frustrated and they'll go to a family member or a friend and complain. And it's like, you don't need to, like, sour their opinion of your spouse. Like, work through things together. Don't just whine about it to someone else. It doesn't reflect well on you or them. And there's something to be said about, like, not bad-mouthing someone you love.
Yeah.
Like anytime though. You know what I mean? That sounds
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah, no, it
But
makes
it's
sense.
easy when you're like so emotionally involved and it's so connected to your everyday life to get frustrated.
Mhm.
And I understand people like talking to friends about issues. That's one
Sure.
thing. But I feel like someone who's like, oh, he did this again, or he
Yeah.
did this, or God, will he ever stop? You know,
Yeah.
those little comments that
Tell us more about your just kidding.
right. But they seem meaningless, but they actually define a lot about a relationship, and
Mhm.
it's not worth the time or energy
Mm.
to kind of create that mood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah,
Oh, but you never fight though, right?
ever,
Yeah.
never. Perfect.
What made you most happy this week?
That's a really hard question because this week has not been a lot of happy for me. It's been a challenging week. Let me think for a second. Seeing a friend, quality time with a friend. I went to dinner with a friend last night, and this was our first time to spend time together, just the two of us. We're typically with like other friends or couples or our spouses or whoever. And it was just relaxing and fun and carefree. It was wonderful. I love relationships with genuine people who are willing to talk about hard things and talk about fun things and just be real people.
Mm-hmm.
That was really nice.
That's awesome. My other question is, what is your hottest take? It can be about anything, but it doesn't have to be serious, unless you want it to. I'm gonna stop qualifying.
I'm trying to think. I don't even know that I have a lot of hot takes, but okay. Hot take. Don't wear black and brown together.
Oh,
And that's just for me as me. I don't care if other people do it, but I will never do it.
interesting.
And it's like if you wear white and ivory together. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Too similar, but different. The colors
Okay.
count, maybe.
Yeah, I do sometimes wear a black shirt with brown shoes, and I'm like, is this the right
I
choice?
can't do it.
And I'll
Or
still
like
do it,
silver
but I'll think
jewelry
about
and
it.
gold jewelry.
Mhm.
That's really hard for me too. I can't. It's
Yeah.
metals.
Yeah.
It's just
I-
like, and if other people do it, that's great.
Sure.
It doesn't bother me. It bothers me when it's on me and I
And-
can see it and I'm like, I have the opportunity to take this off and change it. Why wouldn't I? So gotta match your colors. Coordinate. You know, no clashing.
I recently started following a woman. She's a fashion designer and jewelry designer, and she's been doing it for her whole life. I
Yeah.
think she's like in her 60s.
Cool.
She looks like she's in her 40s. But she does these great videos where she'll like put together an outfit, and she tells you why she's putting together all the pieces. And I'm like, I never.
It's amazing
thought
to
of
see
this
how
working.
the brains of specialists
Yeah.
work in their specialties.
And
because
it's
it's
always so
nothing
good.
like the way you would do it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned so much just from watching her. I'm like, I want to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
I need more cool things in my closet.
I think we all do,
Yeah.
myself included.
Yeah.
I like some cool things.
Too bad we don't have a really great place to go buy new cool items of clothing.
Too bad.
From
It's a shame,
local
really.
artisans.
If only
Oh
there
my
were a
gosh.
place on the corner.
So close. And all
Well,
your
thank
stuff
God
is
we
online,
do.
right?
Shameless plug. It's
Shameless
also
plug.
all online.
Everything's online, so you don't
Yep.
even have to leave your house.
That's right.
To
We'll
check
ship
it out.
straight to you.
Love that.
Or if you're in Waco, check us out there.
Oh my gosh. I'm excited for this next chapter for you.
Thank you. I am too.
Can't wait to see what happens when Joanna Gaines walks through the door and she's like, wow.
Right? Looking forward to that day.
What a partnership this could be. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, is there anything else that you want to talk about? I think
Nothing except I'm thankful to be on this with you. And like, this is fun. It just feels relaxed. It feels casual. I love the concept of the podcast, by the way. And I love the little short episode you did at the beginning where you told that story of being in patches and like what that meant. And I just think it's so accurate. And as someone who's also in like business storytelling and like short form storytelling, we do focus on one thing, but a person is such a complex range of histories and emotions and experiences. And to try to touch a more well-rounded view of that is a really cool thing.
I think more people are podcasting now, and I'm glad to see it because I don't think there's necessarily time. I mean, there's not time to listen to every podcast that's ever going to come out, but I think having people share more long form, nuanced ideas, opinions is a great way for us to just experience other viewpoints in like a very non-threatening way.
Exactly. And understand the complexity of being human, and the fact that it's not just one thing that you do or one thing that you feel. It's a multitude.
We are multitudes. Yeah.
New. I almost said logo, and then I almost said mascot. I'm like, oh my god, my brain is everywhere.
Tagline.
Yes. Or jingle, maybe.
We are multitudes.
I like that one.
About it.
Yeah. Now add some violin.
Me.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
I'm glad that we got to do it and that we are friends.
Me too.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye, podcast listeners.
Thanks for listening to Patchwork Podcast. Our sponsors are Target,
Miraval,
and coffee. Heirloom Coffee. Perfect. Love it. Okay, well, I guess we did it. We did a podcast.